Morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Yeah. How are you? Everybody, hello. Isn't this a wonderful morning? Sunshine. We should have sang, I've got sunshine in my soul today. I like to move around. I like to be kind of active. And for those of you who have been here with me for some while, you remember when I first started out, I would talk from behind the platform. And this was basically a morning. Thank you for coming. I'm going to talk about God. I'd have a page of notes and I'd just read through them. So tense and so nervous and so unsettled that I don't know why anybody came back. But after a while, after repetition, one gets better at it. You can't do something for 25 years and not improve. And so, now I'm just bouncing all over the place. Of course, the pills help. Last week, for those of you who weren't here, I'd like to quickly recap. I talked about God. And I made the distinction between God, the historical, mythological idea that most of us grew up with, and that is the old man on a golden throne, sitting up in the far-off reaches of the sky, looking down on all creation, deciding who to reward for being good and who to punish for being bad. God was deciding these people are going to heaven and these people are going to hell. That was a scary God. But since that time, our idea of God has evolved. Just as when we were born as a young child, we understood one thing to be one particular way, but then as we grew, our understanding evolved and it made more sense. And that's exactly what's happened over the last 5,000 years. Our idea, our understanding of God has evolved to the point where we now realize that God is spirit, everywhere present spirit. There's no place where this spirit, this energy, this life force isn't. It's in the far-off reaches of the universe. It's right here in this room. It's in every cell of your body. God is energy. God is spirit. You are the outer manifestation of God. Now, God's primary characteristic is harmony. God's state is that of neutrality. God doesn't care if you're black or white. God doesn't care if you're good or bad. Doesn't care about anything. God just has an unadulterated acceptance for you and who you are. Our objective on the spiritual path is to come into a sense of oneness with God. Now, God is it all. God's primary characteristic is harmony, and that is the giant step forward that we're getting ready to take, is realizing if I am going to be one with God, I need to be one with it all, and if I'm going to be one with it all, it needs to be in a harmonious way. We're brought into this world to cooperate with each other as cells in the one body of God. I'm talking about being in harmony with it all. Now, some of you might be thinking, whoa, slow down a bit. Is he saying that my objective, that my duty, that my responsibility is to be at harmony with everything that is out there? Sounds like a tall order to me. When I stand and look out at my world, and I see battles and wars all over the earth, and I see conflicts and disagreements all over our country, and I see disturbances within my own family and within my own social groups, I ask myself, how can I be in harmony with all of that? But I did say it, and I do believe it, because my beliefs are fortified by the greatest spiritual minds that have ever existed throughout the history of time. Buddha called this state of existence, this state of mind, nirvana. And he said where it's a state of mind where one finds everything worthy of caress. Zoroaster, the founder of Zoroastrianism, called it paradise. And he said it's when the loveliest becomes lovelier. Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. And when he talked about the kingdom of heaven, he wasn't talking about a destination that we may or may not go to after we leave this world. He was talking about a state of mind here and now that we can elevate our thinking up to, and in doing so discover that we can kind of get along and we can kind of cooperate, we can kind of be in harmony with everything that's within us. We have that ability. Now that all sounds good too, but the question is, how do we do that? How do we find that state of harmony in our lives? The disciples had the same problem. They went to Jesus and said, "You're always talking about this kingdom of heaven, and we want it. How do we find it? Where do we go?" And Jesus says, "I can't point you the direction. I can't say go this way or go that way, because the kingdom of heaven is everywhere. It's just that people don't perceive it. They don't realize it. They're not aware of it." Now, a moment ago, I stood here and I said, as I look out at my world, and I told you all the things that I see, to discover the kingdom of heaven, to discover that higher state of pure harmony, the first shift that needs to take place is to realize that everything outside of you isn't your world. You're in it, but you're not of it. You see, there are two worlds. There is the world that we all share, 7 billion people, 100 billion different life forms, 1 trillion different activities taking place every day. That's the world, and we just happen to be in it. But it's not our world. I mean, it's not my world. It is just the world. My world is everything inside the skin. That's a good way to distinguish it. Your world is everything inside the skin. The world is everything outside your skin. Everything outside your skin in the world, you have very little control over. It just is. You can make little changes, and you can do some things that have an effect on the outer world, but in totality, it just is what it is. Now, here's the second thing. Everything outside of you in the world is totally meaningless. It doesn't have a meaning until you give it a meaning. You can be walking down the street, something can happen. It is totally meaningless until you define what it means to you. And through that definition, you develop an emotional experience. You like or you dislike. You want it or you don't want it. So we have two distinctions. The first is, the world just is. And the second, my world, is where everything takes place. That's where I have the emotional experience. That's where my life happens to be. It all takes place inside. For instance, think of this. Think of yourself sitting down at the dinner table. The table itself is of the world. The settings and the dishes are of the world. The food that's brought to the table is of the world. But it doesn't do anything until you take a bite and you start to eat the food. It moves inside you, and that's where the physical pleasure is. That's where the emotional pleasure is. That's where the vitality that your body needs comes from. It all takes place in the inner world. On the spiritual path, we need to move to that place where we take responsibility, and this is kind of a tough one, where we take responsibility for every single thing that we're feeling. Now, if you're walking down the street and you see a drunk coming towards you and he's wobbling around and he's obnoxious and rude and disrespectful, and as he goes by, he spits a wad of chewing tobacco down in your shoe, it is what it is. You can get mad. You can carry it with you through the rest of the day. You can yell and scream at the drunk. You can call the police. You can do whatever you want. Or you can go over, wipe the tobacco spit off your shoe, and while you're on the grass, smell the roses. The choice is yours. From that point forward, how's the rest of your day going to be? Upset? Angry? No. Poor guy. It's over. And you move on. There are three things when it comes to discovering the kingdom of heaven. And the first is unconditional acceptance of everything that's taken place in the world. And I know it's not good. I know it's not always easy. There are crimes, there are tragedies, there are all sorts of different things that happen, but the world is what the world is. That's just where it is. In the world stage of evolution, right now we have accidents and people die. Right now we have rude people that hurt other people. That doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's at that stage of its evolution, and it is going somewhere where all of these things that disrupt our being disappear. There was a fellow, used to come to this church, and he seemed to be unflappable. No matter what happened, he was always in a pleasant state of mind. He was always nice to everybody. But I saw him at the grocery store one time, and he absolutely went berserk because the cashier had run out of pennies, and she had to go back to the station and get or to the treasurer, whoever it is, and get a roll of pennies and come back. And he was yelling, he was screaming, he was demeaning to her, all because he had to wait another 3 minutes. Now, what he could have done is said, keep the pennies. I don't need them. It might have been 2 cents or 3 cents, I don't know. Or he could have waited patiently and talked with other people around, but he didn't. He took that experience, which meant nothing in the beginning, and he turned it into something. And that's the basic premise for all of Unity's teachings, is that our thoughts create our reality. That's not meant to mean that our thoughts are going to create something out here, although they can at times, but it means whatever's happening out here, we turn it into an emotional experience within here. And we have total control of our inner world. Nobody else is in there but you. It is your world and your world alone. You can do whatever you want with it. It's like you're behind the controls of a spaceship, zooming through the universe. You can decide where you want to go and how you want to go. Taking responsibility for how we feel at any given time is primary on the spiritual path. Now, the second thing is that we have choice, as I just said. No matter where we're at, what we're doing, we can be angry at the drunk who disrupted our day, or we can take care of the problem immediately, but we have choices. My good friend, Pete Smith, attorney right next door, I was telling him about this, and he said it's like every experience or every activity that you engage in, it's like getting on an elevator. And on the top floor, there's a beautiful space that looks out over the city. There's a restaurant that serves wonderful food. Every single thing you want is there. It is like a feast. And going down to the basement, it's a foul-smelling place that is dark and it is muggy. It is not comfortable at all. We could say that the top floor is heaven. The bottom floor is hell. And that transfers over to our emotions. What emotions we think, they take us up to a high state that we call heaven, or they take us down to a low state that we call hell. Heaven is feeling love, it's feeling kindness, it's feeling beauty, it's feeling compassion, it's feeling a real connection with other people as well as with God. And hell is exactly the opposite. It's feeling apart from, disconnected, angry, hurting, dark emotions that are uncomfortable. So when you get on that elevator, what button are you going to push? No matter what's going on in your life, who's pushing the buttons, first of all, and that is you. What buttons are you going to push? And if you happen to get on an elevator and somebody else is on there and they push the down button, that's their right. You go down with them, don't get off. As soon as they get off, push the top button and go up. I'll tell Pete you applauded him. Anyway, the whole point is that we have the outer world, or we have the world which we live in, and we have our own world that is ours and ours alone. And we get to create that as we go along. It's knowing that, it's moving to the point where every single moment of every single day, we're aware of how we're feeling, we're aware of whether the elevator is going up or down, and we are aware of the power that we have to choose where we want to go. So the last thing I want to tell you is the next time you're feeling angry, the next time you're feeling hate, the next time you're feeling downtrodden, or you're self-rejecting, or you're rejecting other people, the next time your life is void of love, the next time you push the down button and you find yourself in the basement, there's only one question to ask yourself. The next time you feel that way, and literally that question is, what in hell am I doing? You can take that a couple different ways, but it is all your responsibility. So as we go out of here today, I encourage you to rise up to your power, to the power that you have within you. To know that that God Spirit that is everywhere present in the universe is within you and it's accessible to you. That you're here to be a beneficial presence. You're here to harmonize with all that is. And along the way, there's going to be trips, there's going to be stumbles, there's going to be falling down, but you can pick yourself up and move on. It's repetition. It's practicing something over and over and over again until it becomes natural, until it becomes a habit. Then you find yourself moving towards the kingdom of heaven. We'll now move into meditation. Take a moment to take a deep breath and slowly exhale. Just think about your life, all the different facets of it, all the different aspects of it, all the good things and all the troublesome things. But just know that at any given moment, you have the power to choose how you feel. You have the power to choose the emotional shape that your inner world is going to take. We'll now move into meditation.
This is the time we reserve every Sunday service to go within, to recognize that God, Spirit, the Infinite, is always there in our lives, because God is the very essence of our own being. I invite you to close your eyes if you haven't already done so. Closing your eyes is a way in which you turn away from the outer world and turn within to contact Source. This is what powers that elevator. This Source is, as Duke says, neutral. It will enable you to go up or down in consciousness. But as you turn within now, I invite you to place your consciousness in alignment with that of your highest self. To know that whatever circumstances are happening in your outer life right now, whether you label them good or bad, that within you is the power to maintain that heightened consciousness of peace, love, prosperity, and joy. Going up in that elevator is all about your consciousness and nothing about what is happening in your life. And so as you prepare now to go within with the knowing that this resource, this heightened state, is always available to you, as it is here now in the silence. as you gently bring your attention back into the space of this room and of the outer world, I invite you to carry with you that memory of that knowing and that upliftment that comes from knowing that the kingdom of heaven is indeed within you, always available to you, every moment of your day. And so it is. Amen.
Sweet Holy Spirit, sweet heavenly dove, stay